Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yasodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Thira Panachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodhanandana Bhaja Janaranjana Yamuna Thira Panachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Om Mokyantimirandasya Gyananjanachalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanshakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Brinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Thank you, Swavas Prabhu, for bringing me here. Archita Prabhu for inviting me to speak at this occasion. To my God brothers, God sisters, and all of the assembled devotees, thank you for being here. Our Chitta has assigned a topic for me to speak on the spirit of the first verse of the Shikshastakam. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is declared in the Vedic literatures and by our acharyas to be most munificent of avatars. Namo Mahabharanyaya Krishna Prem Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namani Godatveshe Namah. He is Krishna himself, but is distributing his compassion, his mercy, in a more bountiful way even than when Krishna was personally here. When Krishna was in this world at the end of the Dwapara Yuga, approximately 5,000 years ago, he spoke the Bhagavad Gita, the essential summary study of all the essence of the Vedic literatures. That timeless message for all humanity, for all time. And in his early life displayed his pastimes in Vrindavan, where the supreme absolute truth, the cause of all causes, the ultimate father, mother of all living beings, the creator, maintainer, and destroyer of everything that exists in this material existence, and the source of all spiritual worlds. That all-powerful supreme being that is prayed to, worshipped, honored, and feared in various spiritual paths throughout history, appears as a child whose sweetness, playfulness, and love is so infinitely endless that it overshadows the majesty of his power. When we feel the intimate and sweetness of God's love, then the all-powerful nature that people fear, it becomes all but forgotten. Because the nature of the soul, the nature of the heart, is to surrender to that sweetness, to find ultimate shelter in that sweetness, and to reciprocate with a desire to please and a desire to serve. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sravanadi Soy Lavamatra Sadhu Sangha, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunoi Sravanadi Sudhichiti Kodi Ayudoi. That this love is within the heart of all living beings. It is our essence, our true potential, and it is what everyone is seeking, directly or indirectly. Sri Chaitanya taught that this love is not something that is given to us. It's something that is within us. Jeev Jago, Goda Chandra Bole, Kota Nitra Chayo Maya, Pisachir Gole. It simply needs to be awakened. This was Lord Chaitanya's mission of coming to this world, to give the sweetest, highest love, prema, premananda, to anyone and everyone from every part of the world, from every disposition of life, if we're simply willing to accept the gift that he gave, the path of bhakti. Bhakti means ecstatic love for the Supreme, for Krishna. Bhakti Yoga means the path that is specifically and exclusively aimed at awakening that love. On many religious or spiritual journeys, there are various levels of goals to achieve. Some want power, fame, wealth, pleasure, some heavenly pleasure. Others, siddhis, yogic, mystical, supernatural powers. Even if we have all these things to enormous quantities, the heart, the soul can never be satisfied. So we want mukti, liberation, no more suffering, no more desires that are inevitably frustrated, no more birth or death. But Bhakti Yoga teaches there's something beyond that. So far beyond that even the desire for liberation is a distraction. That is prema. To awaken the love that is within us. The personal love for the supreme, all-attractive personality of Godhead. When we experience Krishna's love, our love awakens forever. But the ego, all of our misconceptions, our false identities, the cause of all our selfishness, is like a dark cloud that covers the ever-radiant sun of the love of our soul. In this age of Kali, which is a time of hypocrisy, a time when people so easily quarrel over things that are worthless, it is interesting when we don't focus our attention on what is truly valuable, which is that which helps to awaken our true spiritual potential, our bhakti, then insignificant things appear to have enormous significance. The common analogy is to not mistake a grain of sand for a mountain. But if you don't know where the mountain is or what the mountain is, you could take the grain of sand as a mountain. That's what's happening to all of us. We fight over money, we fight over prestige, we fight over power. For a person who has a higher experience of life, it's ridiculous. I sometimes cite an example of an experience I had here in California. I was at New Dwarka, sitting in this temple room. This is some years ago. And a group of teenagers, the youth bus, they invited me to take a trip with them. They were Hare Krishna youth bus. They said, please come with us. I said, where are you going? They said, we don't know. So I said, well, that really interests me. I'll come. So we took a trip to Kings Canyon. Have any of you been to Kings Canyon? It's somewhere up north in California. And it has the largest trees on earth. And we were walking. Took some hours to get there, and so many fascinating discussions. I felt like I was a teenager again. And we decided to go to the largest tree in the world. They named these gigantic sequoia trees after the great generals of American history. And the largest tree is General Sherman. Now, what General Sherman did is not really my concern, but I really like the tree. It's a gigantic tree. There was all these statistics written down, how it's over 2,200 years old. And if you hollowed out the tree and filled it with water, it could give a family of 6, 3 baths a day for about 20 years. So it's those kind of details. But it's a giant tree. And the teenagers and I were standing around the tree, looking up. So wide, so high. And I asked a simple question. I said, if this tree could give us a message, what would General Sherman, so I guess it's a boy, what would he say? It's getting exciting. The suspense is being multiplied by the special effects. That wasn't planned. I asked, this tree has been here since before the fall of the Roman Empire. It's been here before the advent of Jesus Christ. This tree has been here before any white-colored people even touched the soil of this continent. It's been here for the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, the Spanish-American Wars, World War I, World War II, Korean War, Vietnam War. It's still here. If this tree standing here, quietly just watching, were to give a lesson to humanity, what would he tell us? So the boys, they started telling all kinds of jokes. They were somewhat philosophical jokes. But then one girl, her name Lakshmi, she started to cry. And she didn't say anything, but just seeing her cry, everyone became completely still and attentive. And then she spoke with so much emotion. She didn't say the tree would say. It's like the tree was saying through her. She said, why are you human beings so foolish that you waste your precious time fighting over such things that are insignificant? I've been here 2,200 years and I've seen you. All you people do is just fight over things and greed over things. You only have about 80 years to live, if that. And you have the opportunity for self-realization. You have an opportunity to perfect your lives and realize that you're eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. And what are you doing? You're just chasing after these mirages. A little money, a little fame, a little pleasure. Don't you know you're going to die? And your lives are so short. Why are you wasting your tiny little lives for nothing? And how much you fight about what it has never even belonged to you and never will. Utilize your human birth for something that is really important. It's true. We waste our lives. We think these things we're fighting over are so significant. Param dristvani vartate. But when we experience that higher reality, even a glimpse of it, it changes our whole perception of life. In this age of Kali, even though we have so many bad habits and so many shortcomings and so many vulnerabilities, everyone, wherever we're from, there's a special blessing. It's a special blessing. We have to learn to see blessings in whatever may come. The special blessing is simply by chanting God's names, we can awaken that true purpose and goal of our life. And that was Lord Chaitanya's gift. Through his example and through his associates, he taught us how to perfect our lives by living in harmony with our true nature, which is to live in the spirit of being a loving servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord. And by living in that state of mind, and by associating with people who are truly striving for that state of mind, and chanting God's names, we could very easily reach that goal. Reach it means, if we're just sincere, it is given to us. Lord Chaitanya himself, Krishna in the mood of the spirit of Sri Radha's love, in the last chapter of his pastimes in this physical world, he was staying in Jagannath Puri in a place called the Gambhira. And there, along with two of his close associates, Swarup Damodar Goswami and Ramananda Rai, he would discuss, sometimes all night long, all day long, for days and days, these 8 verses that he personally composed. Sri Chaitanya gave limitless instructions. Sanatan Goswami, Rupa Goswami, Sarvabhauma Prakashananda, to the people of Navadvip, to the people of Puri, throughout his trip of South India. But with his own hands, he only composed 8 verses that we still have today. And it begins with the particular prayer that our Chitta has asked us to say something about. Cheto darpanamarjanam bhavamahadavagni nirvapanam sreyakairava chandrikavitaranam vidyabadu jivanam anandam buddhivardhanam pratipatam punamrita swadanam sarvatmasna paramparam vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. The mind is compared to a mirror. When we look in the mirror, we see ourselves. When the mirror is covered by dirt, dust, and pollution, that's all we see. The soul sees the world through the mind. When the mind is clean, the soul sees its own true self. And Krishna tells how a great soul sees this world. Bhoktaram jagatapasam sarvalokam suhradam sarvabhutanam gyatvam shanti mrchjati. Sees that everything is the property of the Supreme Being. Every living being is a child of that same Supreme. Krishna not only is the proprietor of all that exists, but he's the supreme controller of all controllers. And everything ultimately is meant to be utilized in harmony with him. But somehow or other, forgetful of that, disconnected from that, we are thinking, I am the proprietor, I am the controller, and I am the enjoyer. But there's two problems with that state of mind. One is, everyone else is thinking the same thing. So there's everything to fight about. There's everything to try to prove ourselves superior to others. And the other problem, it simply isn't true. And it never will be. If we're the proprietor of everything that exists, then how is it that anything or anyone could take it away? I don't get into politics, mainly because I just don't know enough about it. And my brain doesn't operate in that way, so I don't even try. But one thing I know is even the wealthiest people in the world are very much inclined to try to get politicians on their side so that they won't take away their wealth. Yes? It's kind of the way politics are. No matter how rich you are, you're always afraid that somebody's going to take it away, or somebody's going to obstruct you, or you just need more. Because the more you have, the more you need to maintain what you have. And that's whether we're living in a straw hut or we're multi-billionaires. The same principles are there. We're just not the controllers. And you have to grow old. And you have to get diseased. And your body will die. What are we going to do about that? There is something we could do about it. Realize that I'm beyond death. As long as we're identifying with this illusory body, death is inevitable. So this age of Kali is a time where there's so much quarreling and so much hypocrisy and so much anxiety, frustration, depression, exploitation. Even our Mother Earth, she's providing everything unconditionally for everyone. Who are we to exploit, manipulate, pollute? What type of gratitude is that? Bhakti is inseparable from honoring the gifts that God gives us through nature. not to exploit, but to serve, to respect. So in this age where there's so much trouble, simply by chanting these beautiful names we can achieve ultimate perfection if we just do it under proper guidance with the proper spirit. Through this chanting of kirtan, we cleanse the mirror of the mind of all the dust and pollution. And Lord Chaitanya describes this dust and debris that is covering the mirror of the mind are in various forms in the categories of selfish passion. And when it's unfulfilled, there's anger. And when someone has something better than us, we're envious. And we don't get what we want, we become greedy and frustrated and illusioned. And if we somehow or other get a little of something, we become arrogant. And we mistreat others in that arrogance. And we're falling in a stupor of illusion. Those habits, those conditionings are so strong. It's easy to just say, I don't like it. But when you're addicted to smoking cigarettes 3 packs a day for 40 years, it's not that you just say, well, I just don't like it. Because we're so conditioned by it. As they say, we are creatures of habit. To try to break habits, it's a great challenge. We can transcend bad habits by replacing them with good habits. By learning how to see everything as God's property and engaging in bhakti and in a spirit of seva or service. And by chanting God's names, it removes all these anarthas or unwanted pollution on the mirror of the mind. And then this fire of sufferings that are there within this world, the fire is extinguished. We gradually feel peaceful. We feel happy. We feel liberated. And that's just the very preliminary stages. It awakens within us the very essence of all knowledge. The beautiful white lotus of transcendental knowledge and wisdom blossoms in the moonlight of the rays of the holy names. And then Anandam Buddhivardhanam. We taste the happiness, the pleasure, the ecstasy that we've always been yearning for. The ecstasy of tasting God's love, Krishna's love. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught very simple through one of his great devotees, Haridas Thakur. Haridas was the Namacharya. He was the primary teacher for all people of this world how we can achieve perfection through the character, the activities, and the sincerity that he embodied in his chanting. One time, and Haridas happened to be born 500 years ago in India in a family that were condemned by the general society as being sinful, untouchable outcasts. Why him? There were so many great scholars, pundits, Brahmins. But Lord Chaitanya, he wanted to show This is accessible for everyone. Sri Chaitanya, he just crashed through the caste system. I said that to wake you up. Since no phones are ringing, I had to do something myself. One time Haridas was giving a lecture to so many learned scholars, and common people were there also. And he was describing the glories of the holy names of the Lord. And he was asked, what is the goal of chanting God's names? Nam Namakari Bahuta Nija Sarava Shaktis. The Supreme Lord has many names. Allah, Jehovah, Yahweh, Rama, Govinda, Hari, Krishna. The one supreme absolute truth, the cause of all causes, has appeared in this world in many ways, in many forms, with many names. And in each of these names, the Lord has invested His presence, His power, His love. Haridas was asking, what is the real goal of chanting these names? There's two Sanskrit words, sadhya and sadhana. Sadhya means the goal, the ultimate purpose. Sadhana means the spiritual practice that brings us to that goal. And sadhaka is one who actually follows that practice. When he was asked, what is the goal? He said the goal is simply one thing: to love Krishna. To awaken the love of God that is within us. And Haridas Thakur was asked, what about liberation? He said, liberation is a natural byproduct of ecstatic love of God. He gave the example in the morning, before the sun actually comes to the horizon to show his form. The whole sky is lit up. Before the sun actually rises, the sky is lit up because the sunrise is coming near. So similarly, liberation is like the lighting of the sky. But love of God is when the sun actually comes forward. The source of all liberation, the source of everything that exists. And that love of Krishna, that prema, is the fullest, most inclusive, and highest realization of the aspiration of the soul within every heart. When Lord Chaitanya was with Ramananda Raya and Swarup Damodar in Puri, this is what he was explaining. This is what he was meditating on. This is what he was discussing night after night as he was reflecting on this verse, Chaito Darpana Marjanam. In the very last chapter of the Antya Leela of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami brings us right into the Gambhira in Puri. Right into that little tiny room where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's all alone with Swarup Damodar Goswami Ramananda Rai, tasting the sweetest experiences of love of God and discussing it with others. We're right there to hear what they're talking about. Providing we read the book. And have the receptivity and the enthusiasm to receive it. And he's saying like this, the great Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. This chanting of God's names is the highest benediction, the prime benediction for all humanity. Why? Because it awakens this love, this pure, unmotivated, uninterrupted ananda, Premananda, ecstatic love that's within us. A love that's the truest essence of who we are forever. And this love is not stagnant. It's ever increasing. Because the object of love, Krishna, is ever increasing. The Vedic literatures declare different aspects of the one supreme God. Navayovanam cha, eternally youthful, beautiful, and whose pastimes are ever, ever pleasing to the heart, whose qualities are ever fresh. When Lord Chaitanya was traveling in South India, years before he was sitting in the Gambhira with Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Rai in the episode we're describing, he was giving this love freely to everyone. I'd like to just share one or two little stories. After Lord Chaitanya was sannyasi, he was only about 24 years old. He decided to travel with one assistant all the way from Puri down to the Kanyakumari, up the west coast, by foot. And wherever he was chanting God's names. There's one particular chant that Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami shares Lord Chaitanya was very fond to sing. We can sing together. Krishna, 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 hey. Krishna, 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 hey. Krishna, 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 Raksha Mam. Krishna, 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 Pahi Mam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava Pakshamam. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava Pahimam. And he would also chant Hare Krishna. Whoever, he was chanting with such compassion. He was not only chanting to taste that love of Krishna himself, in the mood of Sri Radha, the greatest of all devotees, but he was chanting to share that love with the world. He was so compassionate. He was so filled with love. Anybody who happened to be walking anywhere near him along these little dirt pathways 500 years ago towards South India, they would be charmed. He would invite them to chant with him. And soon there were crowds of people that would follow him. In some places there was just one person who would follow him, sometimes two people. And after chanting with him for some time, Lord Chaitanya would turn around with tears of affection in his eyes and embrace that person and say, very well, keep this chanting and go back to your homes, and wherever you may live, tell others about this chanting. Tell everyone about the chance to love Krishna. And they were really enthusiastic because they had great wealth. Para upakar. The greatest welfare activity, the greatest charity is to give this love for Krishna, to bring people beyond death into true life. It describes in the pages of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, those people would go back to their villages and not out of some religious fanaticism to convert people, but just to share that love. When you taste that love, it's an irresistible attraction. You just want to share it because you see people around you and you see people suffering. You see people lonely. You see people so empty and trying to fill that void with all sorts of superficial experiences. Take this love. It's within you. Chant the holy names. And soon the whole village would be having kirtans, and everyone would love Krishna. And then somebody would visit from another village, and they would become so transformed. They would go back home, and their whole village would do this. And in this way, hundreds and thousands, millions of people were tasting the sweetness of prema, spiritual love. Lord Chaitanya came to one place called Kurmakshetra, a very historical place, an ancient temple that's there for many, many centuries. And he chanted and he danced, and so many people from all the villages around came to join him. And he gave them all that love. And in one village he met a person named the Kurma Brahman. Kurma invited Lord Chaitanya to his home, and Lord Chaitanya came. Kurma could understand who Sri Chaitanya actually was. He greeted him according to the custom of the time by washing Lord Chaitanya's feet and offering him so many nice, sweet words, a sitting place. You see, hospitality is not about the quantity of monetary value of something that you give. It's the love in which you give it. Kurma just gave Lord Chaitanya a straw mat to sit on because he didn't have a throne. He just went out. He didn't have a beautiful garden. He just went out with wild flowers and gave him a nice garland. He gave him nice things. Actually, when I come to think of it, he did have some good wealth. But he showed it with love. And he said to Lord Chaitanya that today, the very feet that Brahma and the Shiva and the Devas are meditating and praying to achieve have come right into my home. Today, my family, my entire good fortune of my forefathers, all my wealth, my life itself has become successful because you have accepted my service. And then he got philosophical, even more. He said, I am being beaten down by the incessant waves from the ocean of material existence, and it's bringing me so much anxiety and frustration. I want to give up everything of this world, and I want to leave home and follow you. Does that sound good? If you think that sounds good, loudly say Haribol. Well, Lord Chaitanya, he said, never speak that way again. It does not sound good. He said, there is no reason for you to leave your home. You stay at your home, you stay in your occupation, you stay with your family, but simply chant these beautiful names of God. Chant Krishna's names incessantly. Yare deka tare kaha Krishna upadesh samara goi guru hai tare desh. And share this message with others. And if you do like that, then wherever you are, you're perfectly situated. And Srila Prabhupada explains in this beautiful commentary that wherever Krishna's being discussed with compassion, with enthusiasm, Krishna's there. And wherever Krishna is, that is Vrindavan, that is Navadvip, that is Puri. Wherever devotees come together, Katyantascha mam nityan tushyanti charamanti cha, to share Krishna, that becomes the spiritual world. All the holy places are present at that time and in that place. So Srila Prabhupada is explaining there's no need to give up one's home. Simply we have to transform our consciousness. So Lord Chaitanya told him, just share this, receive what I've given you in the holy names and share it with others. Share the beautiful message of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Just by doing that, you become guru. Be an instrument of my compassion and remain as you are. They spent the whole night talking about Krishna, chanting Krishna's names. When the sun rose in the next morning, Lord Chaitanya took his bath and left the house to continue on his journey to the south. But Kurma went with him. Lord Chaitanya sent him back home. So he went back home. Grihe tako vanne tako sada hari bole tako suke duke bulo nako vadane hari nam koro re gai gora madhu sware. This was Lord Chaitanya's message wherever he went in South India. Whether you're living in the forest as a Swami or a sadhu, or whether you're living at home with a husband and a wife and children and an occupation and these days mortgage and all that stuff. It's all the same. Suke duke bulo nako. You could transcend all this temporary material happiness and distress by chanting God's names. Chanting Hare Krishna. It's so simple. Lord Chaitanya, he would walk really fast. He went many, many miles. And something of great historical interest took place. Not so far from the house where that Kurma Brahmin was, lived Vasudev. Vasudev was completely alone. He was practically exiled from human society. The reason? In those days, he had a severe infectious state of leprosy. He had no fingers, he had no nose, he had no toes. His flesh was rotten. There were foul-smelling, infectious sores that were always oozing from his skin. And I know you're going to have a feast after I speak, so I may not be increasing your appetite. But his body was filled with living worms. Thousands of little worms squirming in and out of his flesh, eating his body and drinking his blood. Now, you cannot imitate great people. And please don't try. But we can understand the spirit of what they do and why they do it, and we could follow in their footsteps. Vasudeva was such an enlightened person. He saw wherever there's life, it's sacred. Sarva yonishu kontiya murtaya sambhavantiya aham bija pratapita. Krishna tells all living beings, they are all coming from me. I'm the mother and father. Everyone is my child spiritually. Srila Prabhupada used to explain, when we understand our own soul, we actually see everyone, Pandita Samadarshana, with equal vision. When we say that all men are created equal, on a physical level, it's just not true. On a mental level, it's not true. But on a spiritual level, it's absolutely true. And not only that, all women are, and all men, and all dogs, and all cats, and all cows, and all chickens, and all fishes, and all trees. Wherever there's life, we're all absolutely spiritually equal. Amani namana dena. And therefore the principle of all true dharma is to offer all respect to God who resides within the heart of every living being. Vasudeva actually saw that way. Now it's easy to talk about it, but let's explore how he lived it. Of all those worms that were eating his rotting flesh away, and the thing about worms, if you have nice healthy flesh, it doesn't taste good to them. But the more your flesh is rotting and diseased and infectious, it's like nectar to these worms. It's kind of like chili peppers. Nice spice. So they were eating his body away, and if any single worm happened to fall from his body and onto the ground, Vasudeva so tenderly, with such respect and honor, he would lift up that worm and place it exactly in the location that he fell from. Don't imitate. Take your medicines, use your whatever you do when you get infections. But this was his state of consciousness. He wasn't just trying to be ahimsa. He actually really felt true compassion, which is what ahimsa is. Ahimsa doesn't just mean not to cause harm to others. That's a very preliminary level of understanding. Ahimsa means paradukkha dukhi. Your happiness is my happiness. Your suffering is my suffering. I feel for you. I respect you. Because there's love in my heart, that love is extending to you in the form of compassion, because I care. That's ahimsa. How can I stand before my beloved Lord when I'm complacent, when one of his own children are in front of me suffering? That is ahimsa. And the greatest suffering, that the soul is forgotten, physically, emotionally, and the para upakar, the greatest compassion, is to awaken people's hearts to that love of God. So Vasudeva would put the worm back in him. And in this way he lived. He heard Lord Chaitanya was at Kurma's house. And because he lived in such a spirit of service to others as an expression of his love for God, he could understand that Lord Chaitanya was his beloved Lord himself. That was like one of those worms falling. Very nice music, thank you. Thank you. Vasudeva, he could recognize Lord Chaitanya. This is described in Bhagavad Gita. Avajananti mamudha manosim dhanamashruta param bhavam apjananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. That we cannot understand who God is, even if He's standing before us, unless He reveals Himself to us. Krishna is in the heart of all living beings. Why we can't see? When we really want to see, Krishna will reveal Himself. But as long as we want to be selfish, then we can't really live that way if we see that. So Krishna hides Himself because He wants us to have free will. Love is something that is intentional, and it becomes spontaneous by our free will. Vasudeva, I've been suffering. I could die at any moment. I've been suffering for decades of this leprosy. And now my beloved Lord has come to the house of the Kurma Brahmin. I have to go see him. So he couldn't walk very fast. Somehow or other he stumbled and did whatever he could to get to that house. And when he arrived, Kurma Brahmin said, Lord Chaitanya left many, many hours ago. He was here all night. You missed him. Let me tell you what Vasudeva did. He fainted. He was so broken-hearted. He just fell to the ground unconscious. Lord Chaitanya is within every heart. Ishvara sarva bhutanam hridaya arjuna tishtati. Bhagavad Gita tells, I am situated in the heart of every living being. The words of Krishna. Lord Chaitanya understood. And he turned around. So many hours he had already walked. He went backward to the Kurma Brahmin's house, and there he saw Vasudeva. He came to Vasudeva to embrace him. Vasudeva didn't want to be embraced. But Lord Chaitanya had long arms. You could not escape him if he wanted to embrace you. And if you're doing something wrong and he wants to catch you, you can't escape him either. If he wants to hold you away from him, you can't get near him. So Lord Chaitanya embraced him. He took Vasudeva closer and closer and very firmly embraced him. His infectious, rotting flesh with all the blood and pus smeared on Lord Chaitanya's body. But only for a moment. In an instant, all his disease disappeared. Vasudeva was completely cured. His body was in perfect health, and it was lustrous. It was effulgent. It was youthful. Vasudeva was looking. A miracle was performed on him. And he spoke a beautiful prayer. It was a prayer from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Sudama, that simple Brahmin, was embraced by Krishna in his royal palace of Dwarka. Sudama said, "Who am I? Just a simple, humble, penniless Brahmin. And who are you? You're the husband of the goddess of fortune. You're the supreme proprietor of everything that exists. You're the Lord of all existence. And with your arms you have embraced me." After quoting this verse, Vasudeva said, the most degraded person in all of this world will not come near me. Just by seeing me, people run away. Not only am I full of infections, leprosy, contagious, but I smell so bad. Nobody could stand even being in my vicinity. And you have run to me, and you have embraced me with affection. Nobody could do this. Only God could do this. I could understand, you are Krishna, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in a moment, you have dispelled an ever-increasing, decaying disease that I've been living with for so long. That is your mercy. And Vasudeva was thinking something. But the Paramatma, the Lord, knows our every thought. Isn't that comforting? It's supposed to be comforting. It could be scary too, depending on what we're thinking. But if we understand, if we're just trying, if we're just taking shelter, even our worst thoughts, we could be comforted. That Krishna still loves me. I'm trying. I'm sincere. I'm taking to his path. Vasudeva was thinking, Lord Chaitanya has just performed a miracle and cured me by his grace. What happens when people see me? They will understand that. What will protect me from becoming proud, arrogant? Because arrogance is so deceiving. Maya, the illusory energy, can catch us at any moment if we're not very careful. Even if we get special mercy and blessings, we can become arrogant about that. I've been cured because the Lord has chosen me to be an object of a miracle. What have you done today? Even if we don't say it, we might think it. And if we think it long enough, we'll say it. And if we say it long enough, we'll do it. He didn't want to go down that road. What's to protect me? He was praying. When I had leprosy, I was humble. But now I could become arrogant. Lord Chaitanya, knowing his heart, he said the same instruction he was giving everyone everywhere. Just live in harmony with these beautiful teachings of Bhagavad Gita and the great scriptures. Chant this Hare Krishna mantra. Chant the names of the Lord and share this beautiful love of God that you have with others. And you have no reason to fear ever becoming proud. And Lord Chaitanya told Vasudeva and told the Kurma Brahman, even though I'm leaving, if you just do these simple things, live in harmony with these simple teachings, the teachings where the spirit of seva, service, is your life. And you're chanting God's names sincerely. And you're sharing this wonderful message and this wonderful grace with others. Wherever you are, please know I will always be with you. We can never be separated. And know, even in that even in feelings of separation, we are together and I will always be eager to meet you. And then Lord Chaitanya left. And now one of the best parts of the story. Are you ready? They were just with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he left them to carry on looking for more people to share his love of God with. Vasudeva and Kurma, in the ecstasy of tears of gratitude to the Lord, they embraced each other. This is very meaningful. When we're grateful to the Lord, we're grateful for the association of those who help connect us to the Lord. They were the very, very best of friends forever, because they had something so precious to share. Srila Prabhupada said, very similar, and I'm going to end today's little talk, because I'm actually over time, but it depends on who makes the schedule. Because I asked Sri Sachinandan, what time does the class start? And he told me. And I said, what time does it end? He said, whatever time you want to end. So after, yes, Sri Sachinandan? I know Swavas and Archita are present, but you admit it, yes? So I'm following him because I'm the servant of your servant, Swavas. But Srila Prabhupada gives a beautiful comparison. Just like Vasudeva had this serious disease, Lord Chaitanya asked him, just chant Krishna's names and share this beautiful message of love for Krishna with others. And he said, this is the sum and substance of the Hare Krishna movement. People have been in a very diseased condition. Avidya, or ignorance, is really worse than leprosy. Because leprosy only affects the physical body. And it could affect the mind if we let it. But avidya, birth after birth after birth, death after death after death, we're in this diseased condition. Enechi asadi maya, enechi asadi maya, nashi baro lagi, harinam maha mantra lao tumi magi. God is none different than his name. It's the medicine for the disease of ignorance and suffering. And when we chant the names of the Lord sincerely, Lord Chaitanya is embracing us. And gradually we become cured of the diseases of lust and anger and envy and greed, arrogance and illusion, the cause of all suffering. And we become happy. Anandam buddhivardhanam. The healthy state for all of us is to be in ecstasy. If we're not in ecstasy, we're in different grades of disease. So we take the medicine of the holy name. We accept the embrace of the Lord through the path of his gift of bhakti. And then we share it with others. We were diseased. If we're actually being healed, we really feel for others who are in disease. And we want to share. And just as Vasudeva and Kurma Brahman embraced, both receiving the grace of the Lord, Srila Prabhupada told us, you could show your love for me, Prabhupada said, by how you cooperate to share this message with the world. So many were in a diseased condition. Srila Prabhupada gave us that medicine. Cooperation doesn't mean just not fighting. On the spiritual level, cooperation means to really be embracing, not just with the arms, heart to heart, appreciating, forgiving, empowering each other, appreciating each other, inspiring each other. Thank you very much. I hate to say it, but the cell phones were louder than your clapping. Would you like to have kirtan? It's the most beautiful way of cooperating. Is dancing and chanting together. Thank you very much. Could we bring her? Thank you, Mataji.
Wow. Keep killing me.
Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvish